Don't make this mistake. If you are not building up enough layers, your portrait will not look complete. Here's what you shouldn't do. Build up your layers too light without building up enough depth by using more shading and more midtones. In this portrait here, you can see that I did not use enough shading properly to transform this portrait into a more realistic drawing. This portrait looks rather flat and it does not have quite a lot of depth because I did not use enough amount of colors as well. You need to have more shadows, more variety of colors, and a good sense of realism by drawing proportionately. Another example I can give you is one of my earlier portraits of this beautiful cat that I just was not able to properly replicate the color that I should have. Yes, I was testing around with different colors, but it still was not quite right. I knew that I should have added more colors in the end, and it ended up turning out a little bit more of a purpley pink than orange that I should have incorporated. I did, however, work a little bit more on the shading in this one compared to the last one. It still is not enough shading, however, it does look a lot better in comparison. If I had just added a little bit more orange in with some of this pink that I applied, it would have looked a whole lot better, even if it was very light. I struggled to add enough depth to this portrait because I was not applying enough pressure over time. That is something that you really need to pay attention to in the future when you are drawing, is to slowly build up pressure and then apply enough pressure towards the end so that you have the right amount of pigmentation. If you have a hard time applying enough pigmentation down, you can use darker colors instead of lighter pastel colors to achieve this. I was using too many light colors in the beginning and they ended up turning out a little bit too pastel looking. Here is a good example as to what you should be doing in the future. So even though this portrait may look like it's not complete, I will apply a lot more layers to this section to make it look more smooth and more vibrant overall. Don't be afraid to try out different colors that you aren't quite familiar with. I love applying a lot of these burnt red / orange colors to some of my portraits. I also love to use a little bit of green colors, like a brownish green color. Really goes a long way in almost every single portrait. I also avoided some of the highlighted areas so that I could work on those later on after I've already built up enough layers in the shaded areas here. If you could still see the tooth of the paper underneath all of those layers, that's when you should know that it's not complete and to continue building up those layers. If your paper cannot handle it, I suggest finding a thicker paper, such as a watercolor hot press paper, to be able to withhold that many layers. You can also use lighter color pencils to burnish over the top of some areas. Burnishing is a method of creating a waxy coating over the top of several layers to blend all of those layers together. That way you don't see nearly as much of the tooth of the paper. Here is a good example as to what you should not do. Yes, this portrait may look gorgeous in the end, but you could still see quite a lot of the tooth of the paper coming through. That means that you did not complete the actual portrait. You do need to use lighter color pencils to burnish those areas, or just keep building up those layers, especially in the shaded area here. You can see that it needed more depth and more shading right in that section so that it doesn't look so sketchy. The coloring does look really well on this portrait. So color is getting better, however, it still looks a little bit more sketchy than blended smooth portrait. Since some of those examples were a little bit too fast, here is a perfect example that's really close detail, so you can actually see how I apply this method of building up these layers in the same direction using a blend of lighter and darker colors. Once you have enough layers built, you do want to use heavier pressure no matter what color pencil you're using. That way you can get the tooth of the paper or that grainy look to disappear. Don't be afraid to try out other colors, such as a dark sepia that has a little bit of a purple tint to it, but it has this gorgeous brown coloring as well to blend in with the black. Colors are very, very important on top of making sure that you are building up a lot of those layers. I really hope that this video was helpful. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and check out the link below if you want to learn to draw your own pet. It is an 8-week fully in-depth program where you can learn to draw different animal features, anywhere from eyes to different types of colored fur. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.